Global addiction. Talk about global addiction is really important, but it's important that we know what is an addiction. Well, an addiction can be described like a brain disease, and usually the addiction starts when a person is young. All the people get an addiction, can get an addiction, and people from all backgrounds, rich, poor, etc., and can happen at any age. When we talk about addictions, we not only refer like alcohol, drugs, cigarette, or something like that, because an addiction can be food, internet, sex, work, video games, and other things. When one person having addictions are unable to control their actions or make rational decision about their behavior because the addiction affects their brains. In this opportunity, we talk about four principal addictions that we consider is really important to talk. First one is the caffeine, second one the cigarette, alcohol, and drugs.
So, as the introduction talks, the caffeine is one of the most popular global addictions that we have nowadays, and there is a lot of products that contain caffeine, like the coffee, some sodas, just some teas, and every people consume this kind of drug. But in this case, in Zamorano, some students consume caffeine in cases, for example, if I have an exam, I just stay up 12 of the night, at midnight, and just buy some Coke that help me and provides me some energy that I will need to continue my studying and for the exam. The Coca-Cola also has a lot of sugar and caffeine that affects the cells that are inside of our brain and interrupt in the function of these kinds of cells, transmitting the ATP and some that are converting by the sugar that contains this kind of soda. Another example is, for example, when we wake up at the morning and consume some couple of cups of coffee that in some countries are a cultural occasion that we have. For example, in France, the people consume a lot of coffee at in hours of 5 or 6 p.m. But it's also a culture that they have in his hometown.
Hello, now I'm going to talk about cigarette. That in Zamorano is the first bad habit that we have for a student. You know that this problem starts with the addiction that you only can buy in Zamorano because you can use uh, the seeds for smoke, but you have other people have another habit, for example, alcohol, but you can drink. So other people smoke a lot, for they think that cigarette reduce the stress, so they try to reduce his stress for a long time to study and for exams. So the people know that cigarette is really dangerous for your health because the nicotine affects your lungs, and you know that you can die for this bad habit. But if you have a lot of friends and you talk about anything for you, they are smoke. You know that the smoke for cigarette affect your body more than the smoke that the cigarette affect for his body. So I think that it's a big problem here in Zamorano, but we can stop because it's an habit for people. For example, I know I have a friend that start the day with smoke the cigarette at 6 a.m. and all after that any time of food, for example lunch, or they smoke a cigarette, or before that going to class. So it's really difficult, and you know that in your life you can do that anything that you want. So only you need to know the dangers that the cigarette can be for your health.
Hello, today I'm going to talk about of the alcohol. First, the alcohol has been introduced by Europeans. Europeans was produced the ethanol by accident because the Europeans begin to transportate food to different places of the continent, and these persons need to transportate the fruits, and the fruits generate the fermentation and produce the liquid. The alcohol, the alcohol addiction is one of the most known addictions. Ethanol is the active chemical in the alcohol. Produce the depressant on the brain, eventually to develop dependence in susceptible persons. In the case of Zamorano, the majority of the students in Zamorano start drunk alcohol because are influenced by friends or any problem that they are. The other consequence that the majority of students in Zamorano begin to take alcohol is because they feel more free without your parents. Thank you.
As we know, an addiction can be described like a brain disease. So when we talk about a drug addiction, we have to mention some important aspects that we have to note about the behavior of people who consume drugs. Sometimes we have the perception that all the people who consume drugs are bad people, but that is not true, because it's important note that all the consume of drug change some things in our brain. So that is the reason for the people who consume drugs can't control their behavior. When the people consume drugs, they don't think about they want to be an addiction person, but the drug cause an effects in the brain, brings the idea that they want or they need more and more drugs. All the people who consume drugs think that they can control how often and how much drug can consume, but sometimes that is not easy. The consume of drug in that person are one of the most common addiction that we have or that we listen in our daily life. sometimes we have or we think that they are a bad person, as I said before, but all of these people are good in themselves, because they only have a bad behavior because the effects of drugs cause that. All of these people that consume this drug, they only think in how they feel when they consume it. But the solution for this problem is only just say no, because your life is in your hand.